soon, now, 10 seconds. I haven't live streamed here for in a good old while. So, well, hello there, friends. Welcome to a Kiro live stream. It is Wednesday, October 22nd at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. My name is Darko, and that is Helen. And we are here to talk to you today about Kiro, about hackathons, about judging, about Halloween. I don't know. Something Halloweeny. Yeah, I haven't been on the stream for in a good few weeks, so it's great to be back. Hello, chat. I want to say hello to the folks in chat. Tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us what's the last thing you've built with Kiro, or have you gotten access to the Kiro? That's also an important thing to talk about. But before we do that, Helen, tell us, tell them, tell chat, who are you, what do you do, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is my first time on the stream, so hopefully everything goes normally.
Everything breaks. It's going to be great.
No, I work on the product marketing for Kiro. Most relevantly for this, I did the Code with Kiro hackathon, and I'm working on the upcoming Kiroween hackathon that we're very excited about. I know we've done a couple posts on that lately, so hopefully people are aware of it and excited about it, because I think it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be amazing. So yes, Helen's here with me, and we're going to be talking about those things. So I guess I see folks here from Perth, Australia. Well, good afternoon to Perth, I guess.
Oh.
Well, Perth, I was told, and you can correct me for a person from Perth, Perth is basically an island. So Perth is in like Western Australia, like completely isolated from anything else. So I have a couple of friends there, so shout out to Perth.
Nice.
But you mentioned something. Halloween hackathon, Kiroween hackathon.
Yes,
what is that?
Kiroween.
Tell us more.
It is the first ever Kiroween, but it's going to be an annual hackathon that we do every year. It's going to be obviously on October 31st. And we'll have a bunch of cool challenges, and I can't announce what they are yet because they're not posted, but it'll be a very big deal. Yeah,
I'm going to drop a link in the chat as well to the link to the. I'm going to drop a link in the chat that takes you to the page where you can see more details about the specific Kiroween hackathon. So yeah. October 31st, more details going to be there. Also follow us. Follow the social stuff for more details. Join the Discord channel.
Yep. There's a Kiroween channel just for this hackathon in the Discord. So you can start like talking to people and forming teams and stuff if you want to.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I think I'm just looking at this website. If you go to Kiro.dev and go all the way down to the bottom, there should be a Discord link.
Yeah, it's the top one.
There we go. I'm gonna drop in the Kiro link as well. So if you want to join us on Kiro on the Discord, there's like 13,000 people on Discord now. So it is shenanigans. So definitely go and check that out. It's a cool thing. We love hackathons, and today we're going to be talking about a hackathon that happened as well.
Yep.
But what happened before the hackathon? What's the most important thing that happened this week?
Oh, yes. The waitlist. The waitlist is gone.
Yes.
Abolished.
I love that. So as you know, friends, since we launched, there's been a tiny little waitlist on the Kiro.dev website where you basically have to join the waitlist for you to be able to use Kiro, or in certain situations, some people got some codes, and there was a whole thing. However, was it this week or last week? Last week.
It was last week.
Last week.
What is time?
What is time anyway? Last week we've opened up the waitlist. So now if you are considering using Kiro, if you want to go and check it out, it's available. Go to Kiro.dev, and there's going to be a little link where you can download Kiro for your given platform. And there's something pricing.
Yes.
That's different. What does that mean?
If you are a new user, when you first sign up, you're going to get 500 bonus credits. That's not a new thing with this per se, but they won't expire for 30 days now, where before it was 14. So they'll last for a lot longer.
Yeah, good. So you have the ability to get those free credits right now and use them for a little bit longer. No time like the present to do that. Excellent. So we have two guests today.
Yes.
And two guests are going to be joining us, and they were judges at the latest or the last hackathon we had for Kiro. So when Kiro launched, was it when the Kiro launched?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So when Kiro launched, we had this hackathon, and we had 10,000 people joined the hackathon.
Yeah, it was. We had to because of the waitlist, we had to cap the registration at 10,000. But yeah, within like the first couple days, we were already like approaching 2,000, and then we did the waitlist. So it was an unprecedented and unforeseen experience.
Indeed, it was. I was kind of like a little bit pessimistic about like, oh no, we're not going to get that much. We got a lot of people. So definitely a lot of people. And what was the hackathon about?
Yeah, I mean the concept behind the Code with Kiro hackathon was just for people to get introduced to Kiro, play around with the tools, the different features. Like the main judging criteria were about using the different features of Kiro, like the agent hooks and spectrum and development versus vibe coding, and talking about what the experience was as you were going through the development of your project. So that was the main idea behind the hackathon, was just to give people an avenue to try it out.
Yeah, and we had a lot of submissions, right? So a lot of people submitted there, a lot of people showed up, and so we had to work with a bunch of people who are not necessarily part of the Kiro team, but basically judges that are going to help and judge these specific projects, because there was a huge prize pool, like
Yep. Total prize amount was $100,000, and we wanted to make sure that we had community judges, not just people working on Kiro stuff. Who, I mean, we have our own biases because we've been in it for so long. So having community members come in and give their perspectives was important.
Somebody mentioned in the chat, Derek Gusto saying, "Hello, Darko, happy 100 days of Kiro."
What?
Is it 100 days? When did Kiro launch?
July 14th. So.
One moment, please. I actually need to verify days between dates. Okay, so July 14th. I am gonna be super happy if this is the case. October 22nd, 2025. Calculate. Hot diggity damn! It's 100 days. Wow. Okay. Well, today I learned. So
what do we have to do?
So
100 high fives, 100 push-ups.
Let's do a high five.
What?
Hey, and little back.
Just pretend that's times 100.
100. So no, I mean, this is amazing. I thank you, Derek Gusto. I didn't know it was 100 days of Kiro. So speaking of 100 days, I always kind of challenge my fellow software developers that use 100 days of whatever to learn a new skill. So if you have not had a chance to use Kiro up until today, give yourself 100 days of Kiro, right? Or 30 days of Kiro if you would just want to keep the free tier. And that means use Kiro every day for at least an hour to try something out. Play with it, build stuff, do things. Work on that project you've neglected for a long, long time. So
Kiroween is going to be a great time to try that out.
Indeed.
If you're in San Francisco, you can even come and hack. I'll be there in person at the Builder Loft.
Exactly. So there's a link to the not that link. There's the link to the event in San Francisco. So if you're in San Francisco and you want to come and join for a wonderful, spooky little Halloween hackathon, Kiroween, we're trademarked. Kiroween hackathon. You can click on that link right there or in the chat and get more information.
But it's not only in person, so it'll be virtual. Like the whole submission period will go until December 5th. So there's tons of time. But yeah.
Exactly. So, but check out the details there. We are gonna go and get ourselves some friends right now.
Yes. Our
so
judges.
yes, because the two of us are not important. Our judges, Brian and Chris, are joining us here in a second, where they're gonna be talking to us all about basically how they judged, what they saw, what are some of the practices, software development. So feel free to drop the questions in the chat about the hackathons, about Kiro, about whatever. Hopefully we can answer, and if we not, we know who can. Do I have a little transition video? I don't even know I do. Let's try to this. Okay, that worked. Hello, Chris. Hello, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Excellent. Brian, I had you on one of my earlier shows in the past. I don't think I ever streamed with Chris, right? Is this the first time we're doing some live stream content?
I think so.
This is amazing. Wow, amazing. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you both for joining us. Before we kick it off, I guess let's start with some introductions. So, Brian, tell us what you do, who you are, where do you join us from, and what's objectively the best programming language in the world?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I'm gonna save that question for the end. So, hey everybody, I'm Brian Huff. I am from Boston on the East Coast. I run a company called Tech Stack Playbook. So, dev agency, full stack cloud software engineering is what we do. I also make a lot of content on social media and love live streaming. So excited to be here. Okay, so objectively the best programming language. I'm like a Python guy, but I think like the whole JavaScript ecosystem is like just the best because you got the back end, you got front end, TypeScript. So I have to say like demonstratively TypeScript is the best language. But
I will agree with you tentatively there. But I do. A couple of years ago, somebody told me JavaScript may not be the best language in the world, but it is definitely the most important language in the world.
So, I agree.
So there you go. That's the thing I heard. Chris, hi Chris. Same set of questions for you. Where do you join us from? Who are you? What do you do? And maybe instead of a programming language, tell me, is it tabs or spaces?
Oh. Well, currently I'm sitting in Palo Alto, California. I had been doing consulting for the past 20 years, and I just recently joined a company called Mercado as a staff AI software engineer. So I'm definitely getting to get my nerd on every day. It's super fun. Favorite programming language, I'm just going to say, is AI. Controversial, I know.
Controversial.
I know.
Okay. Well,
I was going to say, I used to totally hate on JavaScript. I felt like it was trying to speak to Yoda in the way that it's structured. Done a lot of Python, but it's grown on me as I got into full stack about 2 years ago, and so I'm really embracing it now. And so I get it, the TypeScript, all of it. Like I'm totally down with it.
But this is a kind of a legit question for both of you. So we keep joking about the best programming language, and a lot of developers these days are using coding assistants, like things like Kiro. And have you noticed something like what language suits your usage of a coding assistant best, right? And this may not be the best language, right? It may not be even the most coolest language, whatever, but it suits your use of it best. Is it Python? Is it JavaScript? Is it Java? Is it whatever? Have you seen any differences between that?
I'll take it. So I think that the models do well at Python and React, and there's a school of thought that the most examples that are out there on the various sites, Stack Overflow, whatever, that's where the most data is, and so that's why the models are so good at it. I find that other languages, they might struggle, but if you give them a little bit of extra context to what you're trying to accomplish, they do pretty good.
Yeah. Brian, yourself?
I totally would agree with what Chris just said. I've noticed when you type your data, specifically like your data models, when you're coding, I feel like the AI is able to pick up more on what you're trying to do, especially when you start working with like requests, promises, kind of the more like advanced sides of like working with API endpoints and data stuff. If you can like type your data, that's why like I love TypeScript. I've just noticed that when you bring in TypeScript and data typing, just makes like the whole experience like so much easier. And a pattern that we actually started doing was like always linting our code. So having like those like agentic hooks, or even just like, manually doing like linting or prettier formatting, just being able to have that as like keep the code base fresh and clean. It just like makes like the experience like chef's kiss, like when you're working with AI. So I've just noticed that like Python, Chris, totally agree. It's like perfect for that. And then TypeScript, React on the front end side. Perfect.
So for my Python users out there, please just stop what you're doing, refactor all your code, and use Pydantic. Pydantic is just a way to strongly type Python. It's going to make your life so much easier when dealing with coding assistants. So trust me. So, okay, cool. I guess let's talk about something else that's important, and these are the hackathon we did. And both of you kind of were involved in this, so I guess let's start with Chris. Chris, what was your involvement in this hackathon? What did we ask you to do?
Well, I received some number of projects that I got to dig through across a variety of categories. Lots of interesting stuff to look at. I think one of the things that was kind of striking is, we're all sort of in our own bubble, right? I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley. We have Silicon Valley problems here. And I think one of the things I enjoyed about this competition was seeing the types of problems that people are solving across the world, across different economies and in different situations, and like taking me out of the bubble and just keeping awareness of, what else is going on around the ecosystem and programming, and like the impact that people can have by solving these real problems, and how AI assisted coding is helping people that maybe weren't able to do this in the past. They're able to like solve real problems locally and elevate everyone. And I think that's what's, the biggest vibe for me with this thing, is seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think the generation of coding assistants has opened up the gates to a lot more people to dip their toes in the coding world. Now, I will not go so far and say that anybody can code these days. I'm very careful with that sentence, because that sets really bad expectations. Everybody can learn to code these days. That's a better approach to it. So, but yes, opens up possibilities for people to build stuff that maybe in the past, myself included, could not build. So, I really like that. So I guess let's start with well, have you done some judging on the thing, or were you just the overlord?
I did do some judging. Yeah, I wasn't a panel judge, so I wasn't making any like score-based decisions, but we had a prize category for like the Social Blitz prize. So I went through a lot of social posts, which were very fun. It was funny to see how obviously AI written a lot of the posts were. But I mean, you can't hate on that. It's an AI tool. So
I mean, we can get to that.
There's
good
a time
ones.
and a place. A social post, that's a good time and place, I think, for a little AI support on some copy. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to go through those.
Yeah, and again, we had a lot of them, so there was a lot of them to parse through. So I guess let's start with Brian. Maybe give us a couple of examples. And I see there's a comment here from Gabs Hit about like what was your favorite one. But let's start with like what kind of projects did you get to look at? What kind of stood out, and did you see some interesting approaches now that people have coding assistants to build these things?
Yeah, totally. So, similar to Chris, I got sort of my little section of projects to look at, and it was really interesting because there were a lot of first time people that sort of went into this and they had like never built something before. They were like, oh, like maybe they have like some technical experience, but they're like, I've never built like an application before. So it was really cool to see people sort of build like a front end with a back end, and then learning how AI works. And there were like a ton of different use cases. There was like storage solutions. There was a really cool one that had biometric encryption. So it kind of like like just sort of like Face ID, like on the phone, right? You Face ID, and then that allowed you to encrypt and decrypt messages when you're communicating with someone. I'm going to guess, I would put money on this to say that person has built things before. This wasn't their first rodeo. I'm just guessing. But it was cool to see that. Like there was also some people in like the healthcare space that were visualizing data sets, so making data more accessible, sort of allowing you to like go over, just like CSV data, which looks really fun. Now it has like a chart and a visual interface, which helps you sort of analyze that information. So I noticed a lot of that, like people that had very specific problems, and then they're like, I'm going to take this month and go and build something that solves a problem that I have. So yeah, it was stuff like that. It was very cool to see people take real world challenges and then use AI to accelerate that whole process of building something. But it was really fun just to like see, and no project was the same. All of them were super different. They were all like, there was never one project that was like people cloning other people's projects. It was like you could not have gotten a more like random selection of projects, which was awesome to see. Like really creative.
Did you see any sort of like patterns when it comes to like people building these things? Like you mentioned that you obviously see that somebody is experienced when they build something. Have you noticed some specific patterns for like somebody this was their first thing they've built? It's kind of interesting because again, we all use the same little brain power that is Kiro, and but people prompt it differently, but I'm sure there's been a lot of similar approaches to things.
Yeah, I feel like in the videos, I noticed a lot of people were focusing on like spec-driven development, where they sort of felt like
That makes sense.
I want to plan things out, especially for like some of the features were like very complicated. So it makes sense that you go spec because then you can plan it out over a long period of time. And also hooks. So if you're doing something repeatedly, sort of having like this, oh, and then do this, and then do this again. So I noticed those types of patterns, and a lot of it was, React. Like Chris, you mentioned that sort of like that's like your classic like modern web app nowadays. There was quite a bit of Streamlit UIs. There was like a lot of Python. Like a lot of people were using Python for some of the AI like backend stuff. But yeah, it was definitely like Python if you're doing backend stuff, and then TypeScript for the front end. Those were like some patterns that I noticed.
Okay. So you say like React was a very common thing. Has there been something that was completely out of left field, like something that you've like, oh, somebody used Erlang and PHP, whatever? Like, so, was there something weird that you that you ran into?
Ooh.
Huh. Nobody
think about
submitted
this.
anything weird?
And or was there I think hooks are like such an interesting application of AI. But like was there something that you saw that was automated that is like very non-standard? Like not like the classic tedious tasks that are like the low-hanging fruits, but something that was like, oh my God, I wouldn't have even thought to automate that.
I saw something that was actually like kind of interesting slash funny.
Tell us.
So like one of the people said that this is always why you use Git with your code base. And like you commit to make sure that you preserve history. There was like someone that said that they were like trying to clean up their code, and it like started changing a lot of stuff. And that was kind of interesting where it's like when you use AI to like change like a bunch of stuff, think like you're changing stuff across a whole code base, it might try to optimize code in like ways that might like break in the sense of like how you're doing it or how you were thinking about it. So I noticed that there was like someone said like, oh no, like it almost like completely refactored my whole code base. But like then they were able to catch it and then be like actually steer it in the direction that they wanted. So that was something that I noticed was like when you like you really have to optimize your prompts and how you talk to like any AI, because it might go like in a completely different direction than what you're envisioning. And if you get like hyper specific of like, I want you to only clean up this type of thing in this section of my code base. What's cool with like the AI tools now is like they can get that granular. But if you leave it like up to its own like demise or not demise, surmise, I forget what the term is, but if you leave it up to its own like volition, it might just start like changing like big brushes. And I think it's easier. That was what the video was talking about, where it's like it's much easier to use like a chisel once you have a big code base to like be really specific than just be like change my thing. And I think that's kind of where we're heading now with AI is like you can't just be like refactor my code base, like make it better. You have to really be like, no, like specifically change this part of my code base or like this specific section. That was just something that was kind of like interesting where I was like, oh, that's like interesting to see that other people have like similar challenges and opportunities that I do when I code.
I had one project with a similar problem, and what they did was they had a hook that would check to see if particular files were modified that were not supposed to be modified by Kiro. And so it would check, and it's like, oh, hey, if you modified this file, like roll it back. And I think one of the problems that they were trying to solve is that, AI will decide to broaden its scope at certain times. Like, yeah, I'm trying to solve this problem, but I'm going to go digging into these other files for who knows why. I think I see this a lot when conversation histories get really long. Like they think the conventional wisdom is that the model's attention is kind of U-shaped. It's really good at remembering what's at the beginning and the end of the context window. And as those message histories grow longer, it sort of loses sight of what's in the middle, sort of we have the needle in the haystack test. But yeah, I think one of the most meta things that ever happened to me with AI is when it did something wrong and I asked it to be accountable and explain to me. and it said, well, you've given me too many tasks and you haven't given me any priority. So I'm just overwhelmed. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be paying attention to. And oh, that was like one of my, that would won the internet for the day for me.
It's just doing its best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
We all are
Chris,
doing
go
our
on.
best.
It's pleading, it's like, it just, I gotta say, AI has made me a better communicator with humans for sure.
For sure.
That's
But-
so interesting.
But I love I love the discussion. This comes around the whole, kind of taking a big code base and kind of refactoring it into something smaller. I think, and I'm gonna misquote somebody, but a famous artist, and I'm gonna say it's Michelangelo. I'm not really sure if it is him. Somebody who did sculptures. He says art is when you take away the unnecessary. So you can block a stone, you remove unnecessary, you get art. So I think this is kind of like also good code is when you take away the unnecessary. So if you have a bad code base and you want to do stuff and you slowly chisel it away, you're probably going to get into something cool. So I'm glad Kiro appreciates that thing, and I'm sure Chad can correct me and tell me who actually made that quote. But Chris, to your point about the whole hooks, I think hooks are kind of a cool thing, and I'm happy that you see like these kind of interesting examples of hooks applied. I know of a similar example which you mentioned here, that certain files should never be changed. There's an easier solution to that. chmod -w on your command line. It will prevent anybody from writing to that file, including yourself. So I had a friend whose coding assistant, that shall not be named, was overwriting test files because tests were failing. So instead of passing the test, it would just delete the test, which is great.
Problem solved.
Yeah, problem solved. There's no test to pass if there's no tests, right? So I love that. I love that absolutely.
Or when the test fails the real data, and so it goes, oh, I just put mock data in because the real data wasn't working for me. I won. Like, look at what a great job I did.
And that's also, like, to your earlier point, why it's so important to be like aware of how code works and have the at least some kind of foundational understanding of how code bases function and all the file organizations and everything. Because otherwise it's just the Wild West.
Yeah, understanding what's happening is of utmost critical thing. It's easy to do a sample to-do project and just be happy with it, but once you get into more complex things and stuff that's being submitted to this kind of a hackathon, you need to really understand what's going on there, especially if you want to maintain it long term. So critical is instructing your coding assistants to actually tell you what they're doing in a little bit more details. But yeah, Chris, what kind of cool things have you seen as well on your judging experiences?
Yeah, one that stood out to me was, there were games, right? And the games ran the gamut. It could be like terminal games. It could be, iOS kind of, or, mobile phones. One that kind of resonated with me was a game to teach people command line skills. And this is kind of a peeve for me because, having hired people in the past, not every developer is like fluent with Linux command line stuff, where I grew up with that, in my tech career, right? So it's sort of a prerequisite. So I thought it was interesting to gamify, to teach people how their way around the shell. And so I saw there's like room for growth, to really help people dial that in. So I thought that was kind of cool. I saw multiple projects that were around farming, and the unique issues that farmers have, and especially in different places in the world, right? I mean, we all have to deal with the climate situation, right? But some places it's harder to get water, for example, or any kind of resources. So seeing things that were managing that was something that stuck out to me.
So in these examples that you mentioned, projects that are kind of like maybe geographic specific, did you see some of that location-based, world-based, whatever they are from based, kind of be reflected in their requests and their what they're built and how they approached it, or was this treated like any old other application?
I think it was region-based in terms of the problems that they were trying to solve. There's like weather forecasting is like an obvious thing, right? But even the inputs and the outputs and the time, like not everybody has applications to to monitor the growth and to be able to go back and look at the data and determine like, hey, how well is this crop going? What were my inputs and outputs? Like being methodical, hey, there are people out there with pen and paper, and that's how they're tracking it. And they just get overwhelmed with the number of crops, the different kinds of crops, that kind of stuff. So like bringing what resembles like an enterprise application for farming to countries that don't have that kind of strong economic vitality, like that's incredibly moving.
So I fully agree, right? I think that's kind of the cool thing about when dealing with a hackathon that's very global. You get these non-Bay Area ideas, right, Chris? You get a lot more kind of a problems people have to face. For both of you, a question: Have you noticed on these hackathon submissions any kind of special care to like cost optimization of these things? Because sometimes for hackathons, people just tend to go like willy-nilly and just like brute force their way through an application. Have you seen like certain steps that were taken in these applications that will be run more optimally on the cloud, or whatever the approach would be? Any one of you,
Or if you didn't
Yeah.
see
Or
if you
anything
didn't see it.
specific in this.
I'm trying to think back about this. I'm
Yeah. Same.
not sure that I did.
were these all like pretty straightforward applications, like your typical 3-tier applications, or was this something a little bit more complex that you've seen?
It really ran the gamut. I mean, the complexity of the project, some people spent a relatively short time cranking out something that was simple, that was easier to build. Some of them got into very complex and they spent a couple of months on it.
Yeah. I think one of the things I noticed was just on like cost optimization, right? Because as we all know, like the limit does not exist sometimes in the sense of like how much something could cost to actually deploy it. So I noticed that like if people were using, for example, like the cloud, right? They might do like Lambda function or serverless type, integrations to make it easy. You might use API gateway, but you wouldn't be like trying to deploy something to Kubernetes or something that could be like much more, not even just like cost, intensive, but also just like workload intensive. So I noticed a lot of people were like iterating kind of quickly. So you wouldn't want to be like, spinning up nodes and needing to worry about like all that type of stuff, sort of MVP, like what's the minimum viable product, or like minimum feature execution. That's kind of like what I'll try to call it, of like to get the features you want, to get that to deployed, like what does that actually look like? So I'd say that would be like the main thing that I saw was just like, how do I get these features deployed quickly? I noticed there were people that were using different like API, like AI, like API keys. Bedrock was one that I saw, but other people were using like, other types of other tooling, like OpenAI, if you're like trying to throw in different models, test different things. A lot of Claude or like Anthropic models, like the just like the latest and greatest from Anthropic. So I noticed a lot of that, and people are just like hacking around and experimenting stuff. I feel like hackathons are cool because you sort of see like, I have this idea, like I have this vision, like help me get there quickly. And from some of the people in the videos were like sharing the prompts that they had with Kiro, and I sort of noticed like they might ask like Kiro like, oh, what's the best type of API or AI for what I'm trying to do. So sometimes even like deferring to the AI to tell you what AI to use, it's kind of like AIception, but it can help sort of when you're making those decisions of like, I don't know what the right tool is. Let me ask this super smart AI assistant to help me figure out which AI to actually implement, and then have it actually implemented. But having that step, that's kind of like, we go back to like spec-driven development. Like that's where you get all of that troubleshooting, brainstorming before you actually start implementing. And then you're like, oh, I wish I didn't actually implement this thing because it can't actually do what I want it to do. Kind of, there's like the catch-22. It's like, how early do you start planning? But I think the ones that planned from the start made really great projects. So
yeah, I feel like the complexity of the project was kind of tied with what kind of platform they were launching it on, right? Because I mean, everybody has a lot of choices, and people might tend to steer towards the thing that they know, that they're comfortable with. Some of these things are relatively simple SaaS applications. They don't require the type of infrastructure to do like scalability, right? And so you see this alignment with kind of maybe where the developer is on their developer journey and the complexity of the project and the infrastructure that they took is all interesting to see.
So this is a very cool thing. Kind of thinking about a hackathon, and then you mentioned it's like there's no hackathons are kind of like no wrong ideas, right? No bad ideas here because people can kind of try stuff out. Otherwise, everybody would be making spreadsheet software, right? So like it's at least people can throw something at the wall and see what sticks. So I do like that, and the fact that people have built like just MVPs, which perfectly just makes sense, right? You do mention AI being part of this whole thing, building it, but also being part of these applications. What percentage, or have you seen a lot of like AI being part of applications? And look, what was it used for?
The one thing I love about this time period is, I got into traditional AI, through Deep Racer. Thank you, kind of set me off in this journey. And we had classical AI until we had Gen AI, and then that's all anybody talks about, right? But
traditional AI, I love it. We're
yeah,
that forward. Traditional,
classical, whatever, So but I was strongly in like the computer vision when I was learning classical AI, and there are other parts of classical AI that are relevant. Like generative AI isn't like a statistics engine, right? And so I love to tell my wife, like, math hurts my brain. I'm not a math guy. She seems to disagree for some reason, but generative AI has allowed me to learn more about classical AI. So I love to see use cases where Gen AI builds the classical AI, right? So it's both tutoring, it's teaching me how to do it, but it's also allowing me to build complex things that require hard math that hurts my brain that I would not be able to do. And I did see a few projects that were reflective of that. Building computer vision technology or building statistical analysis using pretty complex models that aren't necessarily running on Python in the cloud in the back end, right? So those definitely stuck out to me as something very interesting.
I mean, that's kind of cool thing. And again, we live in the world of 2025 where everybody's just trying to ham fist AI into whatever, right? And they usually put the wrong AI where it shouldn't go. Case in point, I use generative AI for a very bad reason. So, and this is where it could have been solved better, but I was just lazy and I just did it.
What an intro.
What an intro, yes. So I built a tool that will, it's kind of like, it was QCLI before QCLI, right? It had all the features of, well, most of the features of QCLI before QCLI. And the way I would like take your code repository and ship it to the cloud is I would try to determine what type of project it was. And then based on that, I would pick specific files to send there. So I would take a snapshot of your folder structure and send it over to Bedrock, and Bedrock will tell me that's a Rust project, or that's a TypeScript project, or that's a Python project. And based off of those things, I would pick specific files. So, which is the wrong way to do it. It's not the correct way to do it. There's better ways, more approachable ways to do it. The same goes with computer vision. I see people like, oh, I want an AI tool that takes a feed from my camera and then determines if people are wearing PPE, right? Which, yes, it can do that, but it's not what it should do, right? You have computer vision models that do that better. So I'm happy to see that we have traditional AI implemented in these things. So that is pretty cool.
I've had a side project playing with how to predict lottery numbers.
Okay.
This is not a winning lottery ticket, just saying.
Okay.
But it's interesting going through and understanding how the math applies to the numbers and using AI to try these different ways to solve that problem.
Yeah. I agree. Has there been so when Brian, when you were looking at these specific hackathon entries, has there been something you've been kind of specifically looking for to see in these projects? Something that you were like, oh, I want to see a project that does that, or the way it approaches it this way, so I can judge it good.
That's a good question. I think because I recognize that like there's like what I think is cool, and I tried to come actually at this hackathon with like not what I think is cool. I want to be like have other people tell me what's cool, because I think if you bring in too much of your own like perceptions of what you're looking for with AI, you get into like that in group, out group thinking, like you think too much in the box. And I kind of wanted to think like, oh, I want to be like wowed. I want to be like dazzled. Like, what are the things that other people are creating where I'm like, wow, I did not think about that, like in that specific way. And there was like one person that built like a storage solution. And you sort of think like, oh, it integrates, S3, but it was solving like, again, like a very specific problem that this guy like has. And I was like, okay, like you're using things that I understand, but your implementation of it is very innovative because I now understand a problem that I completely didn't know about before. Like I don't really know like, his industry. I don't really know like his day-to-day stuff, but I was like, oh, that's so cool that you used AI to use specific tools to help you build a platform that doesn't exist already. And that's where I think like, that's where I didn't want to like come at it or at the hackathon as a judge to think like, oh, I'm only looking for like agentic AI that like does coding. Cause it's kind of like, I want to see like, what are people doing that's not that, and because there's like so many companies that are kind of doing like a lot of the same stuff. And I really like hackathons where you have people that just, their minds are just so creative and they're thinking like really outside the box of like, yeah, everybody's going left, but these people are going right. So that was something that I really enjoyed, was just like the diversity of thought and how people were just bringing in all these different ideas, different problems, and then using AI to like find the solution. Also, another refrain that I heard in like every demo was just like, oh, this would have taken me like 6 months or like a year to build, and I was able to build it in like under a month. And I was like, yeah, like I feel the same way. Like when I'm using these AI tools, I'm like, oh, this easily would have taken me like weeks to do. Boom, we're done in like a couple of days. No, not. And Darko, to your point, like when you talk about like with coding, like it's not like everything now is like, oh, it's all solvable in a week, but it's all relative, right? Like you can use these tools to make you go faster. And that was something that I really liked, that everyone had that realization, even like super like senior engineers to people that were literally building like a project for like the first time. They all said the same thing, which was like, I don't know how this long this would have taken me, but I was able to get it all done in a month, which is like, it's like inspiring, to see that, like that type of innovation, no matter where you are in your developer journey,
Yeah,
It's
I
cool.
think that especially for Kiro, that's one of the things that stands out to me, is that people are moving fast, and like that's across the board, no matter what you're using. But like with the specs at the start of a design, the like structure as you're moving fast makes so much more possible without like introducing some crazy risk that you never knew was a possibility or something, But I think I think the democratization of all of the building is very, very exciting. And then we didn't want to like, I think there's a lot of hackathons right now that are happening that are like, build the next like coolest AI thing, which is great. And we celebrate that for sure. But we wanted people to be able to build whatever they thought was important.
I saw an interesting.
Let me suggest the next hackathon. Build the worst user interface you can.
Not Kiroween though.
Not Kiroween. Some other hackathon. We're gonna
not for this one.
We're gonna think about that. But Chris, sorry.
Yeah, I saw an interesting pattern actually. That it's like the vibe coding versus spec coding and the approaches that people would take, because Kiro's big thing that it brings to the table is this spec-driven development, right? And so you would see some people that maybe it's like, hey, vibe coding is what I'm used to. I'm just going to vibe code. And actually, it seemed like it took them longer if they just focused on the vibe coding part of it. I saw one entry where the person roughed it out with vibe coding. It created some files and then reverse engineered it with the spec. So went in the spec and say, hey, go look at this existing project. This, sort of, it's almost like their own PRD that they bring to the table. And then they would do a second pass at it, and Kiro would build it based on the spec. And I think, another thing I saw is like it seemed better outcomes were associated with users bringing more information. Like if they really took the time to think it out and created a requirements document and started with that, the outcomes were better. But some people, hey, they're just like, and we've all been there, right? It's like the idea that I go in with it, like maybe I hadn't fully thought it out, things I hadn't considered. So it becomes more conversational in that process. And another thing that was interesting was seeing how people broke up projects like I've done projects in Kiro where it's just a single set of documents, a single spec, right? But some people, their projects had multiple specs, and so they were doing this very layered development approach that was totally spec focused rather than vibe coding.
Well, that's a whole different thing. Like I discussing it, how granular do you want your specs to be? Like myself personally, I like to make them as granular as possible. Like my first spec is going to be this very broad. Like here's a skeleton of an application that each of the individual features I would implement through its own set of specs, because I just it makes me feel safer when I do it. When I have a hard time losing control. If I feel like I lost control, back up, right?
Yeah, like shout out to Yehuda, who we interviewed at the New York Summit.
Yes.
Like, you don't want Kiro to be guessing what you're trying to do. You want to like be very specific about what you're asking.
Has there been something that you've seen, or like, was there a project you wished people would submit for this hackathon? Is there something you may caught your eye as well, or like what would have loved to see kind of software developers build with Kiro?
That's an interesting question
Okay.
that I have not really thought about.
Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, seriously. I do think that for me, the most interesting outcomes of these projects are very resonating with what you guys are saying, things that I would never have thought to build an app for or to build a solution for. It's a really like simple idea, but as a marketer, it spoke to me because somebody had built a tool that would take a code snippet and make like a little social video of the code snippet.
Okay.
Like, that I cannot tell you how many hours of stress and frustration trying to get like a simple social asset for something that would solve, especially in like developer marketing. But yeah, I think it's very, it really showcases how impactful this technology can be when you're seeing use cases like that in these wildly different fields that traditionally don't have that much overlap with tech and developers, suddenly be able to build their own software and applications and solutions to things.
Well, I think to your point, it's definitely democratizing the access to these things, right? If you look at the computer history, like initially software was exclusively used for military, right? Mm-hmm. Software, any written software was military. Then it became exclusively big enterprises. And slowly, as more people were able to build software kind of seeped into more and more facets of our life. And now with more people being able to write good software, you're going to see a lot more open source projects. You're going to see a lot more little tools that kind of fit everybody's niche. So I am a huge fan of that, and I think this specific hackathon proves that there are so many things people should build and can build. And thanks to our boy Kiro here, we can do that now. So wonderful. So we have like 10-ish minutes left. I want to go back to both Chris and Brian. Anything else, Brian, that stood out with you when it comes to these submissions for the hackathon?
Yeah, just it was just cool seeing people try out a new programming language
Okay.
also, or like testing out a new framework. Like there were a bunch of people that, maybe they had used like Streamlit, or they had kind of used like a low code, no code like platform. Like they're familiar with like the idea of what a front end is, but to like actively learn React. Like that's a lot to expect of someone to like learn. I remember when I was trying to learn React for the first time, I also like didn't really have much coding experience. So like it also really wasn't going well, but there also wasn't any AI. So it was like a double whammy, like not a great situation for Brian. But it's like now you can like go in and be like, have Kiro guide you as like a tutor. Chris, you were also talking about this of like, you can use these tools to sort of be your guide and walk you through how to build out something. So I liked that I felt like the hackathon enabled people to sort of push themselves out of maybe like their initial comfort zone of like, okay, like I kind of know these things, but if I want to go here, you can use AI to sort of expand your scope of your design vision and what you're trying to build. So I noticed that a lot. There were a lot of people that were taking kind of like some risks with what they were willing to initially thought that they would want to build. And then they ended up building like a full-on platform. And then what was also kind of cool was like, once you build something, you might realize like, oh, I need to do this. oh, I'm missing this tool, or I'm missing this other system. So then you sort of expand the project again beyond what you initially thought you were going to do. So I like that like I feel like the hackathon was pushing people's, minds beyond what they initially might have just set out to accomplish. Like, I want to just do X. But then you find out that actually you might need Y and Z. And then you might need to start with the whole alphabet and like start building out more stuff. So I liked seeing that a lot. Like, people were like, because again, like, you have time. I feel like when you have a lot of time to build something, you get a lot more in-depth thought. There's like hackathons where you sort of have like 12 hours or like 24 hours to like go and do like something. You're going to get a much different project than like people that have like a lot of time to build something. So I liked the depth and the breadth of like what people were actually like bringing to the table. I was just really blown away. Like, the ton of talent. It was great.
Yeah, like those indications where somebody's like, I know I need this thing, like I've heard of it, I don't know how it works, I don't know how to build it, but it's like crucial to my project. And then they go off in that direction, and then again, like they learn along the way. They may not even fully understand how it's working even at the end, but like enabling people to be more architects and go like, based on research, I know that these are the things that people are using, that facilitate these kind of outcomes, and having the freedom to be able to explore that without being afraid of doing it wrong.
Exactly.
I like that.
Absolutely. And I will say also, if you are a current user of Kiro and you've had an experience like that, we would love to hear about it. So hit us up across any of the socials. But
There's a chat there, but also any of the socials, Discord, LinkedIn, whatever. Kiro.dev, you'll find all the stuff there. Let us know, absolutely. I think as we're wrapping up, I want to give, again, want to come back to both of you guys here and discuss. So since this was a Kiro specific hackathon, but also where people built some cool things. Chris, you have 3 minutes to tell Helen and myself your tips for submitting stuff to a future hackathon.
Wow. Okay. So going through various different projects, I noticed different styles in the video. And obviously, contestants want to use Kiro and leverage the power of Kiro. And they also want to talk about the product that they built. And I think one of the winning tips is make sure there's balance in the video that covers both halves of this. Sometimes I would see people would focus too much on one side or the other, and it helps to it makes it more difficult for the judge to consume this. And we have to go through multiple entries. We don't have unlimited time to do this, right? So another pro tip, having been a participant in a hackathon, is focus on the judging criteria and make sure that your project is aligning with what that criteria is. I've seen many hackathons where people are too focused on, I have this great business idea. Hey, that's great, but that's not part of what the rules are in the hackathon. There are certain boxes you need to check, like check all those boxes first, and then do tell us how cool the thing is. We're all using AI, right? We're generating code, we're generating documentation, all of this stuff. There's a right place and a wrong place to use AI. When you have questions that you have to answer about, like, how did I participate in the hackathon? What tools did I use? Like, what did I find interesting? Don't ask AI and paste a bunch of markdown in there and give a wall of text, because it's obvious, that these are not your words. They may be inspired by your words, but you don't, use AI when it's appropriate. Like, frame out the thought and then use your own words, because it's authentic and it shows the judge that, hey, this is really how me as a human feels about this. And these are the specific nuances, the challenges that I faced, not some generalization of those thoughts in AI.
yeah, this isn't just another hackathon submission.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This is such a quintessential phrase.
Brian, what about your tips and suggestions for our hackathon participants, future hackathon participants?
Yeah, totally. This was really fun, and I really want to echo what Chris just said about the whole like bringing a human touch to like the work that you might do, because it's very clear, like, if you're using AI to generate stuff and you see like all the markdown language, it's like you see the M dashes. We all know. So I think it's
Yeah.
like bringing that human element back is something that will make people stand out, because again, like if everyone is using AI, if you are bringing something that's different to the table, it will then make you stand out. And I really want to harp on that, because I feel like in some of the videos, like there were people that might have been using like an AI voice to like talk over the slides, but then you had people that were like bringing like passion and excitement, and they're like, look at this cool thing that I did. And I was like, oh, okay, they're dialed, they're locked in, like they're excited about what they did. Those types of projects I think will stand out more than kind of like that AI generated, like auto-tuned voice, which is just like, it's the same voice. And you're like, I know how you're doing that, because you're using the same tool. So I noticed that. And I think also just like being prepared to like take a risk and build something bigger than what you might have initially thought, and like kind of getting out of like that like initial comfort zone. Because I noticed that the projects that did that, and it seemed like from the videos people were talking about, like they really pushed themselves. I felt like those were the ones that really like rose to the occasion, and that was the stuff that was really stand out. It's usually the projects where it's kind of like, I don't know, they were trying to like play it safe, and they were trying to just like do like one very specific thing. And it's like, that might be cool, like if you're like nailing that very specific thing, but if you can like expand the scope bigger, I feel like those were the projects that were bigger. So just don't feel like you have to like only do one thing. Like you can allow in a hackathon to like really explore, be really creative. And that's where I was really blown away by a lot of the projects, that I could see that they might have had an initial idea, but then they like completely expanded the project. So yeah, so I would say that. So human element and being able to like build beyond what you initially thought of would sort of be like my two areas that I think will help people, in future hackathons.
I'd throw one thing in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'd throw one thing on the voice, like, something you said earlier, like we try to be objective as judges, and not bring our personal likes and stuff into things. And so, hey, it's really nice when you have a flashy video, but I feel like there's some participants that maybe don't know English, and they used AI voice as a proxy for that, to be able to communicate their thoughts in a way that I wouldn't have been able to understand otherwise. And I thought that was a great use of AI. So it wasn't about the splashy thing. It's just making sure that they're able to communicate those thoughts to the judges. So I would say it just depends on how you use it and what the use case. It isn't a like, don't use AI, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, because it's like yeah, I totally agree, because it's helpful, because you can like get your thoughts across in a way that like it can be helpful. So I totally agree on like an accessibility standpoint, 100%. But even I will say though, yes, on like language front, but like even just popping on and being like, it's like, hey, I'm a real person. Like I think that matters, right? Like even if you were building maybe by yourself or like with a team or something like that, but it's like even just jumping on and being like, hey, like I'm a real human, like hello, I think that will help projects also stand out too. So it's, again, totally agree that like great use cases like language barriers, but still showing that you're a person at the end of the day. I think that will like really just be like, hey, like I love this project, super cool, that type of thing.
Helen, what about your tips for the folks out there?
Well, I was gonna double down on something that Brian said, which is like, don't build the project you think we want to see. I guarantee you, it's not about that. Build what you think matters, and the rest will follow. Like that's how you build a great project, is that you're building something that you care about, that you have some personal investment in, that makes it important to you. And it will really shine through. Everything will be easier too, because you won't have to like try and figure out why this is a valuable thing that you're building. You'll already know.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, right? Solve a problem that you have, right? Try to solve a thing for yourself. You just have the freedom to do it in a public setting, right?
Yeah. And then Kiro is the tool that you're doing it with, right? Like that. The whole point is that you can have this platform, this fun way to engage with the tool, where you can build a thing that you care about and experience how Kiro can help you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So definitely have fun with it, and try to again stay from like the traditional demo applications people love to build because they just don't stand out. So, and also, it does not have to be a great business idea. Not at all.
Yes.
So, right, we're not looking to make money off of this. Maybe you are, but like, it's not that thing. It just has to be a very unique, interesting, abide by the rules idea. So, excellent. Well, I mean, I'm glad this hackathon is over because we got so many people participating. But there's a new hackathon coming up, by the way, my friends. Yeah, Kiroween coming up. You guessed it. This Christmas. What? No, Halloween. So
One kind of Christmas.
one
for
kind
some
of
people.
yes, exactly. So there's going to be a link in the chat, but it's also here on screen. You can go to luma.com/2q that, and you can go check out the details. More details are going to be incoming on this thing.
Yeah.
So make sure to give us a follow on the social doobie-doos and
Join Discord. That is where you will get the most up-to-date information about Kiroween. This link is for the in-person event specifically.
okay.
The hackathon page will have the actual sign-up participation virtually for everybody. It's not posted yet, but Discord and social will be the first places to know. So
Exactly.
follow us, join. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, and that's the link to the Discord, discord.gg, kiro.dev. And yeah, come hang out with 13,000 people there, which is just shenanigans. Amazing. Chris, Brian, thank you folks so much for being part of this. Thank you, first of all, for agreeing to be judges on the whole thing.
We loved having you as judges. It was really, I think it was very important and cool that we were able to have you on.
Exactly.
Glad to be here.
We'll
was a
buy all the
blast.
cake and coffee. So just so you know, as a down payment for this whole thing. So thank you so much.
Is there cake?
There's cake? Yes.
yes.
Yeah, nobody told me about cake.
I know we got to get in on this.
There is
Cake.
ghosty shaped cake in the future. So
right.
amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you both. Thank you, chat, for being here. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks. Oh my God.
It's like 9 days now. I can't think about this.
Very soon. But it's also 100. It's 100 days of Kiro, which is shenanigans.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad that
Some
you
social media
commented that
posts
there.
need to go about that. So thank you, anonymous commentator. Once again, friends, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this, and we'll all catch you next time. I need to hit the end of the stream, so bye.
Bye.